Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky. I'm coming on to talk to you about the transit of Mars in Cancer happening from March 25th, 2023 until May 19th, 2023. So just about a month and 3 week transit, more or less, coming in. And I wanted to come on and make just a brief and tranquil video about Mars and Cancer. I thought that we needed to talk just a little bit about Mars as we had a very long I believe like 6.5, 7.5 month transit of Mars and Gemini with retrogrades over the last half of 2022 and beginning of 2023. And we have really firmly come out of that now. And let's talk about some of the ideas, concepts, and symbols around Mars, how I feel that Mars energy is expressing right now at the individual and collective level, and just enjoy some time thinking about moving ahead in our own lives, as I feel that the sacred masculine energy that Mars represents in astrology is very key and pivotal in the I guess, question of whether or not we feel well or feel like we are efficient and effective at this time in the greater astrological picture, because we've had such a very important time of working with the divine feminine, and of course we're always working with both sides of this spiritual question. But of course, as we had the Mars retrograde in Gemini, we had a lot of questions coming up about how we're communicating ourselves, how we're directly moving in our lives, how we are basically using our communicative ability to move forward. And now that we have Mars moving into Cancer, things are getting a little bit more subtle and things are getting a little bit more emotional. Okay, so the sort of chaotic and somewhat immature and obnoxious energy that Mars was expressing itself through over the end of 2022 and beginning of 2023 will now end. And yes, things will get a little bit more passive and a little bit more emotional, and we will start to see the previous way that we were directly asserting ourselves, and some of the very obvious ways that we were moving forward in our lives will start to become a little bit more poetic, perhaps, and start to also become more sort of beneath the surface. So Mars is debilitated in Cancer. So it's kind of been hard. I think that it's going to take us getting into this summer, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, into the summer months when Mars goes into Leo. Mars loves being in Leo, for us to really get back to our more natural form of direct expression. I think that we've been in a crisis of expression. The Mars retrograde in Gemini definitely indicated that there was a little bit of a problem with the way that people were communicating themselves. Also a big growth in, like, what would I call it? Haughtiness and basically ego and condescending ways of basically expressing oneself that was coming out with Mars and Gemini. It can be a very obnoxious energy. And then also with the retrograde, it indicated that a lot of people were basically working on the way that they communicated their ego, and perhaps also having some negative issues with like ego clash. So clashing egos, having like war of ego, feud of ego was definitely something that a lot of us were dealing with up into the latter half of 2022 and very recently. And now Mars is in Cancer. It's now debilitated, and yes, it will move into Leo at the end of May. And I think that by then we are looking at a much healthier ability to express, but it comes through the lessons that we take on now. So there can be a lot of emotional conflicts with Mars and Cancer, and I want you guys to all be preparing basically to do yourself justice, okay? And to do your own emotional expression justice with this transit of Mars in Cancer. So it's going to be very easy over these next few months to be reactionary. It's going to be very easy to also have direct emotional conflicts, or like temper tantrums for some people, or crying, or basically like having altercations or triggering events with Mars in Cancer is always possible. Everybody, regardless of what your sign is, gets a test about their emotional reactions with Mars in Cancer. And especially then if you're a water sign, okay, Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, there's definitely going to be perhaps something that comes up that asks you, can you handle this situation with grace? Can you handle this situation with tact and without having a large emotional reaction? At the same time, you could be having to react to other people's sort of loss of emotional control. So having to console someone as they are having some kind of emotional outpouring, having to also sort of go to bat for someone else or fight for someone else's cause, clean someone else's messes is also likely with Mars in Cancer. So people who have this transit natally, I often find that it indicates some degree of having to clean up after another person, or having to like also help someone else, or be faced with someone or something that can't like independently work with itself. So it can be either side of this. Sometimes people with Mars in Cancer are like that, and they have to have a lot of other people helping them, or they have to have basically like interventions. But then it can be the other side of it as well, like having to be the person intervening, or having to be the person cleaning up someone else's mess, or having to come to someone else's rescue. So I do see things like that happening during this month and a half period of time, and people can make really great progress with basically problems that have been put off for a long time, but it could feel a little bit discouraging for some people as they question, like, why am I the one who has to clean up someone else's mess? Why am I the one who has to be there for someone else in this capacity? This can also be like the therapist's signature as well, having to help someone to clean up their feelings or to cope with something. Being a sort of catalyst of coping in another person's life is possible with this transit. So yes, Mars in Cancer always can indicate some degree of emotional vampirism. So if you have anyone in your life who is an emotional vampire, you might take distance during this transit. Also, if you have anything in your own life that starts to feel like qualities of an emotional vampire, so what that means is needing to have difficult situations so that it can be talked about, needing painful or violent stories to get attention, or to inspire other people to have sympathy, or that is something that will probably become very prevalent during this transit. And it's good to see it if that's happening, because we need to definitely be there for people who are having like real problems or having like real difficulty, and make sure that that's authentic and real. Also, another thing that will come up during the transit of Mars in Cancer will be family relationships, okay? Especially parent-child relationships. So whether, and that can of course be on either side. So really pay close attention to the relationships with your parents and the relationships with your children. The best thing usually during the debilitated Mars in Cancer is to not, overdo meetings or overdo anything with people that you know that you have problems with, whether this is family or not. But oftentimes with Mars in Cancer, things can't be delayed, or there are things that come up that we can't put off or we can't save for another day. In that case, a lot of us will be tested to really like overcome certain family wounds or grudges. Mars in Cancer is also very close to like the energy of a grudge, or the choice to hold on to something, or choice to not come past something, or to not forgive is often seen with the transit of Mars in Cancer. So really watch out for doing something that can't be taken back. So like mean words, mean text messages, mean emails, losing one's emotional control over text message or email, things that can't be taken back. Okay, we want to really see that kind of like wrapping up here, because I believe that the last transit of Mars had a lot of this as well, like people just kind of like losing control of what they're saying, right? Like Gemini being ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication. Well, Mars in Cancer could take that to the next level. And if you've had any kind of like disputes with people, or if you have any type of feud or ongoing issue, you want to really try to bring peace to that as much as possible with this transit, because it will be very easy, very easy under this transit to just have conflict, or to just have emotional unsureness or emotional confrontations. Another key issue coming up with this transit of Mars in Cancer is burnout, okay? So the previous transit of Mars in Gemini with the retrograde was really prone to creating burnout because Gemini, as an air sign, as a mutable air sign, really expands and increases the fire element of Mars. And the combination leads to such a flammable, kind of like fiery energy that by now, after all that time, Mars having to stay in Gemini for so long, having to be in the air element just way longer than it wants to be in its retrograde cycle. That means that flame was really burning a lot longer than it typically would, the flame that Mars represents. And of course, any Mars retrograde, regardless of what sign it's in, can represent burnout because it has Mars staying in one sign for such a long time. So I would say that this Mars in Cancer for a lot of people is going to be recovering from burnout. And that's one of the best ways that you could channel this Mars in Cancer. So like soothing remedies, right? The spa, deep tissue massage, taking a really maternal tone with yourself, really nurturing yourself. Of course, the sign of Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon has rulership over the maternal energy, over the cycles in life, over nurturing. So to put Mars in Cancer, though it is debilitated, you can make really good direct progress with self-nurturing or with any kind of healing process. So any disease or any kind of sickness, burnout, or even injury, inflammation, all of these things ruled by Mars can have healing with Mars in Cancer, but it has to be so precise and direct. It has to be so pinpointed, and it has to be so reserved as to not generate like the emotional conflicts or the also kind of like resentments as well, that Mars in Cancer grudges, resentments that can generate with that energy. I can't believe that I have to be the one to clean up this person's mess. I can't believe that I have to be the one to like intervene in this person's path of self-destruction. I can't believe that it's up to me to lead this project. I can't believe that I have to do this or that. Like Mars in Cancer can be very like a finicky like that. And also the main grave error of Mars in Cancer is not realizing that to be this leader or to be this sort of designated person of intervention, or to fix some of this stuff, or to heal some of this stuff, or to be called upon to be nurturing during this time, may carry with it more rewards than they realize. So it's very important. This is like the main issue with Mars in Cancer. Basically, to not cut ourselves off from the prosperity that we've been set up for by complaining a lot, by resenting what we have to do, and rather it's better to just step into a really solid form of duty and to live up to commitments while very directly focusing on what needs healed. And absolutely, there is room for getting stuff off your plate with Mars in Cancer. Now, we have to be very, I suppose, sophisticated in understanding that filtration process. So what goes off the plate and what doesn't, that's another question with this transit. And I'm hoping that you guys have already kind of been like working on that, because that's been in effect for such a long time, that ability, that focus on like what's on my plate, what isn't, what do I say yes to, and what does that mean I've said no to, opportunity cost, so on and so forth. I feel that Mars in Cancer is just another level of support for basically cleaning up your energetic grid, cleaning up that which you allow yourself to do, that which you don't, that which you invest time in, that which you don't, is really good to clean up, and knowing what is a solid commitment that you won't be changing, and then also what maybe you don't want to keep committing to, or what cycles you don't want to keep around. All right. And within that, I think that enough time and space can be cleared up for anyone to like really proactively heal and really proactively nurture, to the extent that you don't have to feel like there's so many different things on your plate, or so many different crazy things that you have to do, that there's just no time for yourself, no time to like prepare your own meals. Very good to like learn how to cook with Mars in Cancer. Very good to learn how to also like more directly improve your nutrition. The sign of Cancer does deal with nutrition and food preparation in the home. So it could be good to actively engage better food preparation habits, better sleep habits, and better like winding down habits as well. So better nighttime routines. I would tone down the stimulants if you can, less caffeine. Also, very stimulating media. I'm talking a lot about this on this channel lately, so those of you who are subscribed are used to hearing it, but it's good to have a little bit less overkill, okay, with this transit, because I will say, you guys, that which actually needs to be faced, that which actually needs to be committed to for pretty much every person with Mars in Cancer is going to kind of take a lot. Okay, so there are going to be things that come up in our life that we really have to give some energy to, that are very important. Okay, this can definitely be health. Health is certainly the most important thing, probably, because without it, money, careers, status, relationships are very secondary. So, especially if you have any kind of health crisis, any kind of burgeoning, like, feeling of fatigue or exhaustion or burnout, I would not take it lightly with this transit, and I would get as much stuff off of your plate as you can and go straight to the heart, very directly, of what is hurting you, also at a deeper emotional level, as it's also likely that the family may need you, or you may have to do things with the family. So definitely don't overbook yourself during this time. Like, if you have any like control over your schedule, this time period of March 25th until about May 19th will need to be really as clear as possible to basically create the time to do what really matters. So anyway, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to keep it brief. I just wanted to come in and update you on my feelings about Mars in Cancer. The first transit of Mars through a new sign after that lengthy 2022 retrograde in Gemini, that is over. That obnoxiousness is over. That carelessness is also over. And by virtue, the sort of like, ability to forgive so easily is also over with Mars and Gemini. So things get more consequential with Mars and Cancer, and there's a lot of damage control and healing to be done. But with that, also great opportunity for nicer living. So anyway, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Check out the description box below. This channel is on Patreon, where I do weekly forecasts called T-Chats every week. If you haven't joined, come and check it out. It's a great service. And yes, also you can subscribe to this channel if the video resonated, and turn on the bell notifications to get notified when I post in the future. Have a great transit, and keep an eye out for the upcoming content, which I'm really excited about. There will be some eclipse content coming up later this month, as well as the usual comprehensive astrology videos and more. So be sure to stay tuned and check it out. I hope you're all doing well. Much love. Bye.